Welcome back to 40's Vintage. We're taking a break from working on Josie the tractor to do a little tool maintenance. And what tool, you might ask? Well, everyone has their vices. This one is mine. This is a vise I picked up about a week and a half ago, made by Milwaukee Tool and Equipment Company. Not that Milwaukee, different Milwaukee. These were made for Montgomery Wards, as well as being sold by Milwaukee themselves. Near as I can tell, it's somewhere from the 1940s on into the 1950s. We're going to go with it because they made this during the 1940s. We figure it counts. The plan is to dismantle it, clean it up using electrolysis, and get it painted up again. We're not going to fully restore this back to its former glory. As you can see, it actually has a bend right here in the shaft. I'm not going to bother repairing that. It does work as is. As a matter of fact, you probably, if you watch the second episode of our Josie series, this made a little cameo not long after I got it. It works just fine despite that little issue, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And I'm not planning on bringing this back to exactly how it was showroom stock. What I plan to do is put it in the electrolysis tank to get all the rust off of it, take it back down to the bare metal, and then we're going to spray it with a paint that will give it a nice durable coating so that we can continue using it for years to come. It's more like a renovation than a restoration.
So as I said, we have a Milwaukee Tool and Equipment Corporation vise, and it's cast iron, which is going to be perfect. We're going to go ahead and put that into our electrolysis tank. That way we can get it all cleaned up back to bare metal. Our first step is we have to dismantle it. And I've never dismantled one of these, but I've read a lot about it. So in theory, we need to unscrew the jaw all the way. There's a bolt at the bottom that will allow us to take the base plate off. We'll have to unscrew the swivel here. And it appears that the jaws have some pieces that can come off there. We'll see if those actually come off. They appear to have some lines in here, so they should be separate. We're going to find all that. So step one, a lot of this. Okay, now there appears to be a lock ring in here that we can take off. So let's go ahead and do that. They make tools for this. I don't have one. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay. As you can see, it looks like there's a couple of Phillips head screws, kind of mangled. Not sure if we'll be able to get those out or not. They do appear to be cast iron themselves, so I might just leave them in, which would work. Play with that in a minute. Let's get this disconnected. Believe it or not, this is actually just hand tight down here. No tool required. I'm not going to be able to get those undone. So we're going to leave them on, see how that works. But here it is, the component parts. Next step, let's go set up our electrolysis tank.
So what is electrolysis? I haven't really a clue. All I know is it's a process by where we pass electricity through a piece of metal called the anode and a negative charge into the item that you want to be cleaned, called the cathode, suspended in an electrolyte solution. Now, in this case, what we're doing is we're using water. We're going to add some superwashing soda to it. This is just sodium carbonate, not bicarbonate, sodium carbonate. And then what we have is we're going to take some pieces of metal. I just use scrap metal. So this is just steel. I'm going to put one on either side. You can use any steel. Make sure that it is steel, not aluminum or anything along those lines. I've used old brake rotors in the past. It works great. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually suspend one in each side, so that way we've got it surrounded in the middle. Very important that your cathode, negative charge, which is the atom you want cleaned, and your anodes, which are the metal pieces that are positively charged, do not touch, or else you're going to pop a breaker or ruin your charger. What we're using for power is just a very simple battery charger. This is a dumb charger. It's just a car battery charger, 12 volt. This one does 6 amp. You can go higher. You don't really need very high to do this. My wife actually picked up this charger for about $5 at a garage sale. Actually, it even still has the $5 tag on it. You can use an automatic charger, like one of the fancy ones that automatically shuts off, but that gets a little trickier because what it's going to do is it's going to see, hey, I've got a charged battery here, and it's going to turn itself off. If you only have an automatic charger, the way to do that is to get a dead battery and hook it up in series with the dead battery. That way the charger thinks that it is charging a battery or attempting to charge a battery while it's actually putting its power into the tank here. Okay, so our first step is to set up our electrolyte. I'm using Arm & Hammer Super Washing Soda. This is just sodium carbonate. So we're going to do it at a rate of 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. I've got about 15 gallons here, so we're going to do approximately 15 tablespoons. This is not precise. You don't need to be exact on this. You just need to be close. So we want to just get this stirred up, get it all dissolved in there. No better way than getting your hand in there. All right, next you want to get set up with your anodes. Again, just pieces of metal. We're going to hook those in, get them connected up. Now I've got these connected together with just some jumper cables. The positive side, we're going to hook our battery charger up to one of these, which will then give a positive charge to that. Next step is we're going to do, I've got this hanger. This is just a piece of PVC pipe. I've cut out some of the edges so it kind of sits down nice and flat on here. And then I've got just a hanger. This is just a bent up coat hanger, which allows me to hang things from it. So I have 3 major pieces that I'd like to get in here. I've got the 2 jaws and then the base plate. So I'm going to start by getting the jaws hung in here, just figure out a way to do that so that they are in as far as possible. And then we'll figure out getting the base plate in there as well. So I'm just going to bend this up to see if I can get it in such a way that I can get it through this mounting hole in the bottom. So that goes through into there. And if I can get that to stay, that would be ideal. It's pretty good. It's kind of the beauty of using just a coat hanger, is you can bend it to your will and it will still put the power through. So we hang these 2 down in here. Okay, I didn't have another piece of coat hanger, but I did have some just spare metal, actually the same type of metal as I use for my anodes there. So everything is submerged. So next thing I need to do is I need to connect up my negative side. I'm just going to do that by connecting straight to these, making sure that everybody stays disconnected. And I'm going to just go ahead and connect onto this guy here. Next step, let's get the battery charger connected up here. So I always like to connect my battery leads before connecting the power into the battery charger. Just put that there, make a nice connection. All right. Now when I connect the power, you should start noticing some bubbles coming off of our pieces in the middle there. We're going to get this fired up here. It'll take just a few seconds. See if I might take you a little closer. So I don't know if you can see that, but we've got some bubbles coming off right there. Now this is an important piece.
those bubbles are actually hydrogen. So that's why we're doing this outside. You definitely want to do this someplace where you've got plenty of ventilation, and you do not want to cover it up because that hydrogen will build up in there. And as we all know from the Hindenburg, hydrogen bad. So we're going to let this go. This is going to take a long time. This will actually probably take on the order of 20, 24 hours. But as you can see, it's doing its thing. Lots of bubbles coming off there.
Well, unfortunately, I had a bit of a camera malfunction, so I'm not able to bring you some video, but I did manage to extract some still frames. So what you're looking at right here is what I encountered the next morning after taking a look at this. You can see all the rust at the top. That all came off of our vise, and that's the beauty of the electrolysis process. I guess you could call it beauty. What we have here is a good example of the type of work that the electrolysis tank does with no elbow grease whatsoever. I've just pulled this straight out of the tank. Actually, I dropped it in the tank, so I had to reach in and grab it. But as you can see, there's no rust there. And if you take a look side by side with a screen capture from earlier in the video where I show the bottom, you can just see the difference there. I've done no scrubbing on this whatsoever. This is right out of the tank. So one thing to note about a electrolysis tank is it does not necessarily remove everything, but it does cause things to be loosened. As you can see here, there's still some silver and blue paint on this, but as you watch and I move my finger over it, just even that little bit of just moving my finger over it causes it to flake off. So the next step after this is to take it in, hit it with some steel wool and scrub all of that off to bring it all the way back to the bare metal.
Okay, there is a piece of what looks like weld or something like that on here. I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can use the Dremel to grind it off. May or may not work. We'll see. Not perfect, but I think it'll work. Okay, so everything is done. Just need to be put back together. Let's take a look. Not a perfect job, but pretty good and good enough for what I'm going to be doing with this, which is using it. So I think it all turned out pretty nice. Got all of the components coated that we need to. A couple of spots on the bottom, but otherwise, really nice. So let's reassemble this.
Well, that about wraps this up. I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. Now, I didn't fix every little thing on it, but I fixed it enough for my usage, and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that process. Maybe it gave you some inspiration to try a little project out of your own. As always, appreciate you stopping by, watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the little bell button there so you can see when we have another one. And thank you for stopping by.